Good Sunday morning, Tom Johnson here, KOCI 101.5 LPFM. We have two of Costa Mesa's best in the studio with us today. City Manager Tom Hatch. You know, it's good to call you City Manager.
Good morning.
Good morning, Tom. Nice to see you.
It's great to be here.
And City Councilman John Stevens. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Tom. It's great to be here.
You know, we got a lot to talk about because I want to get into, and one of the reasons, you know, Chad and I were talking to some sports is very excited about the Chargers coming up. Before we get just to the Charger discussion, I want to go back a few months because, Tom, you were probably in the thick of things talking about, you know, would the Chargers come, would the Chargers not come? But at the same time, as city managers often have to do, in November following the election, you had a dramatic change of the shift of your city council. So as a city manager, how do you go to bed one night appeasing a council that leans one way, and you know the next day you're realizing, you know what, I gotta completely spin around and change the way people I report to, all of that. Hard to do, or is
John? I mean, Tom, it can be difficult, but what I rely on in everything I do is the structure of government. It is what it is. This is what the voters wanted. I highly respect what happens and that process of voting for folks. And then different people come in, and so being able to adapt. I've worked for 6 different cities, many different council members and different styles and approaches, but the fundamental fact is the council sets the public policy and staff implements that policy, and so our role is to support them and give them the information they need to do to provide the things and the decisions they need to make, and then we implement it.
So we were sitting here. John Stevens is here with us, and you know John was new to the council, and Alan was new, but Alan had done it before. How do you take somebody like John that comes along, wins a race like that? How do you get him up to speed as quick as you can on all the subjects and topics that go on in Costa Mesa?
Yeah. I think John was a long-term resident, I think 25 years or somewhere around that point.
28.
28 years. I'm missing it by a few. He knows his community well. He knows the players and been involved in coaching and all kinds of different activities in the city and different agencies and churches and things. And so he knows the community well. Now, he comes in with John, with a spirit and a kind of a enthusiasm for collaborating and working together with folks to get things done. And so he's charging off on all kinds of new ideas and some old ones that we've kind of dealt with before,
right,
but new energy and looking at it in a different way and challenging us all to rethink how we do things to continue to change and be the best we could be.
You know, I think you used a great word for John, collaboration, because what I have noticed more than anything, even through the election process, is John was always the guy on stage or whatever that wanted to get along with everyone. He didn't mind debating and doing serious debate. Before we went on, we were talking about one of the things we had here in KOCI, and you were sitting 2 inches away from Steve Mensinger.
Right.
You're cordial to him. He's cordial to you. You guys debate the issues and everything. But a lot of politicians and everything, they get kind of stuck in their own beliefs and stuff and don't want to do that collaboration. Seems like, John, you are a person that really takes the issue and looks at the issue and tries to determine, forget what side I'm going on, it's what's best for Costa Mesa.
Well, the other thing, too, is, as Tom pointed out, I mean, I've been in this community for 28 years, and we've been doing different things, Cub Scouts, Little League, church, carnivals, all these things. And so I've interacted with people who are my political opponents in very kind of personal ways, and that includes Steve Mensinger, Jim Righeimer, and I'm getting to know Alan Mansour. I didn't know him, but I'm getting along very well with him. And you can disagree all you want about issues, but when you're in a local election and you're serving your community, you know, you have to get along with people. I mean, Jim Righeimer, I could hit a 3-wood to Jim Righeimer's house from my house.
John, I've seen you hit. I think you're going to need the driver.
But I mean, we're basically neighbors, so you know you got to get along. You got to get along with people.
Yeah, Very good. Hey, listen, when, some of the big things that have happened, John, since you've gotten into office is one of the issues you jumped out on was the fireworks. Where are we with that today? We talked to you a couple of weeks ago on that. Where are we today with fireworks?
Well, I'll give you this is an exclusive update.
Okay.
So we had our fireworks forum. It was very well attended. There were about 75 people there, and we took in all kinds of information, and also people emailed about fireworks in Costa Mesa. People are very concerned about two kind of areas. Number one is revenue for youth sports teams and youth sports in general, and that's important because fireworks raise a lot of money. And then there's a whole other group that said the thing you always hear is Costa Mesa is a war zone. So we tried to figure out what to do, and we got together with some of the city staff, including the police chief and the fire chief. And what we're working on is what I'm working on with Heroes Hall and the fairgrounds and city staff is a centralized, safe celebration. Now, I have not. We're in the process of developing that, and I'm going to bring that forth to council, most likely on April 18th.
Okay.
And the whole idea is when I met with the chiefs, it came down to there's three things that are a problem in Costa Mesa that is causing a lot of the illegal fireworks and the illegal activity. We celebrate in a way that's decentralized, disorganized, and dangerous. So the solution is to have a centralized, organized, safe celebration, and that's what I'm working on.
Okay. It's funny because, and we've talked about this, Newport Beach had a similar problem when the peninsula used to be the war zone on 4th of July and everything like that, and then I remember the city worked closely with the dunes to try to create something that would take the attention off the peninsula and maybe gather a whole bunch of other people. So they started doing concerts and food trucks and things there. Kind of sounds like that's something that you're looking at, maybe have a central place in Costa Mesa where people could go and enjoy the evening.
Right. And because the thing about it is if everybody has to go in a decentralized manner into their neighborhoods, then you have, those parties are fun. I go to those parties and I get it, but they create cover for a lot of illegal activities.
Right.
And if you can bring a certain percentage of the population to a fun, safe, centralized celebration, then the law enforcement is able to do their job a little bit better on the illegal activities, and it keeps the city safe. And plus, the celebration, the way I'm kind of conceiving it, is going to be great. It's going to be really, really fun.
Speaking of keeping the city safe, Tom Hatch, I noticed this week that it seemed like a whole new division of firefighters were hired for Costa Mesa, and I know we've been down a lot of people over the last few years, both in police and fire. Had to be a good feeling on your part to see these recruits come in and to be able to, that does stuff like it cuts down on your overtime and everything when you have, more firefighters. Happy about that?
Absolutely. That was a clear, important issue to all the prior council members and all the current council members, and it was an election issue, and it was very important that we hire those people we need to do the great services we always have been doing. And so just Thursday, we had 13 new firefighters start. That's never happened ever where you had that many.
That was great.
The audience is clapping. I appreciate that out there. But that was amazing. They bring in new, fresh ideas, and they've worked hard to prepare themselves. Firefighters, they do a lot. They have to be certified in a variety of different areas and go through various academies, and a lot of them are already paramedics, and so they come in with a lot of experience, and we have a great fire department, but new fresh ideas and enthusiasm is going to be fantastic, and we're excited about that.
You said you have a great department. Chief Stefano seems to have done such a great job kind of rallying the troops and stuff in Costa Mesa. You just, had the big event for the fire station over on Adams. Talk about maybe what Stefano brings to the table and the new fire station and all of that.
Yeah, we're lucky to have Dan. He's a leader in the fire service. He's very involved in various different professional organizations. He's certified by the state as one of very few people that have this extra certification. He has a master's degree in public administration. He's a well-rounded individual that cares cares deeply about this community. Grew up locally in Newport Beach, still lives in Newport Beach, and is tied into the Costa Mesa community for many, many years.
Right.
What I like about him as well, he came from a smaller agency. He came from Laguna Beach, where he worked for years, and so there isn't. Sometimes folks come in from larger agencies like LA County Fire Department or some giant department where they have endless resources. He is the guy. He's got to know a lot about a lot of things and doesn't micromanage, but knows a lot and brings a lot to the table.
I think the other thing, John, and maybe you can comment on this, is both the chiefs, Sharpneck and Stefano, police and fire, they're out there.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, but they don't just, sit in their stations or run their people or whatever. They get out to different events and everything and make themselves very public.
Absolutely. And, recently I was at was called the Law and Order Awards Banquet. And both Chief Sharpneck and Chief Stefano spoke. And this was Newport Beach, Huntington Beach, and the sheriffs, and Costa Mesa, obviously. Mm-hmm. And they were giving awards to people within their department. And I could not have been more proud of our chiefs. I mean, Chief Sharpneck did a great job, but then Chief Stefano, if I'm keeping it real, I mean, he elevated that room. And our fire department, the fire department honored Mark Martinez, and the way that Chief Stefano did it, you could just tell that guy's a leader that anybody would follow anywhere. And it's really extraordinary to have both those guys.
Yeah, no, that's really great. Hey, listen, we're going to take a break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the agenda for Tuesday night's council meeting. And under new business, number 1, Los Angeles Chargers use agreement for Jack Hammett Sports Complex. We're going to come back and talk about that. We're going to talk about more Chargers in just a few minutes here on Stu News Sunday. We'll be back. We're back. Stu News Sunday here at KOCI. John Stevens, councilman, in studio. Tom Hatch, city manager, Costa Mesa, in studio. Chad Jones. What's your title, Chad?
Sports reporter.
Sports reporter. Okay, great. Now it's great to have Chad in here. Hey, let's talk a little about this Charger stuff. And John, I think you probably have not been in the mix as long as Tom. That's just a guess. But Tom, take me through when you first knew that the Chargers were actually considering Costa Mesa, and take me through those thoughts initially.
Well, let's see. It was quite a while ago, actually. It was actually a year ago, March, when I believe that was the time period where we started first hearing about the Chargers selecting Costa Mesa as a permanent home. Now, you hear about NFL teams all the time about moving here and having concepts and ideas, and most of those don't transpire. And so we didn't think it was that serious, but there were some serious discussions with various property owners in that general area where they landed and about coming here. Now, they were, I think in their hearts, they were always interested in staying in San Diego and seeing that measure pass and provide them the funding to stay in San Diego. And so, but they had this plan, and it was a well thought out plan, but they had the general guts of it kind of worked out, but then they were going to see what happened in the November ballot vote in San Diego, and ultimately when that vote failed, then it really became more of a concept and idea and really looked to be their plan. Now, we heard probably late mid-December, around that time period, what they were starting to have discussions with specific property owners about moving, and that became more and more serious, and they talked to the city about a variety of different things that were a concern to them. They wanted, if they were going to announce that and come here, they wanted some guarantees that if they would do certain things about that building that they're moving into, that they would be able to do that, and they would be able to create an athletic field there and those kinds of things. So we gave them some comfort that they could make that happen, and that led to further discussions. I know various council members at that point had heard about these issues. We were kind of sworn to secrecy for a while because that was, they have a long-term relationship in San Diego, and that was important to them. They had their families and things that were related to employees of the organization and their employees themselves. Do they move, and those kinds of important issues. And so we kept that that quiet for a while, and ultimately they made that announcement just a few months ago now. Right. And from that point, they've moved very quickly to proceed with their headquarters and training facility just north of IKEA, across from South Coast Drive.
Yeah. John, so when the Chargers call up, and you're a council person, and they're asking for certain considerations to, so they can move here comfortably and know that it's not going to fall apart and everything like that, is that just normal business of moving a big company into town, making concessions and things like that? Or how do you do that with the Chargers before everybody votes on it and says, yeah, we can make these kind of concessions?
Well, as you pointed out, I'm a rookie, right? So
Right.
It's not like I can explain all the ways that I've moved NFL teams. And it is kind of a unique experience, I think. I
Right.
mean, it's not like there are a lot of council members who have moved NFL teams. But to this point, up to what we're going to be talking about on the agenda on Tuesday, there really hasn't been anything that's come before council related to the Chargers.
Okay.
There have been we had a lunch where we met the Chargers and met the coach and the general manager and the owner and stuff, and both the Chargers and the city council are committed to working together in a collaborative way for the benefit of the community. And the first thing that's come on board is this issue that's on Tuesday.
Well, let's talk about the issue on Tuesday. The issue on Tuesday is consideration for the Chargers using Jack Hammett Field.
Right.
And, it's funny, before we went on, I do want to say that Barry Friedland's here today, video recording everything. Barry's very good at this. He'll get it out online so people can check it out and everything like that. But one of the things that Barry was talking about before we went on the air are things like, okay, well, summertime's the time that you rest fields in town, you get them in better shape. We don't have enough fields in Costa Mesa, yada, yada, yada. How does it make sense to put the Chargers out in Jack Hammett Field if we have shortages and if the fields need rest?
Well, let's kind of establish some type of context and framework first. Okay, so the Chargers currently, with no vote of the city council, have established their headquarters and their practice facility, as Tom said, over on Susan Street, basically Susan and South Coast.
And they'll actually build fields there, correct?
That's right. Okay. And they're constructing those fields. So that's happening, and that's their practice facility and their headquarters. What's happening on Tuesday is we're going to vote on whether or not to allow their training camp to be at Jack Hammett Stadium. So or Jack Hammett Field. So that takes, the 40-man roster, and then you have however many, 100, 120 that are trying to get on the 40-man roster.
Right.
So it's a bigger operation. And so the proposal is to have two fields, Field 3 and 4, which are there are 6 fields at Jack Hammett. Okay. So it's the two central fields. And take those fields starting in April, this coming April, next month, and start to construct 2 NFL quality fields for the benefit of the training camp. The training camp would go from mid to late July to mid August, and the time frame is 3 weeks to 5 weeks.
Okay.
And the reason why, apart from in 2017, there will be some displacement because of the construction, but the reason why this doesn't displace anyone from our fields is during that period of time the Chargers will be using the fields. We would normally and historically be resting those fields. So those fields rest from about the beginning of June till toward the end of August.
Right.
So they're taking a slice of 3 to 5 weeks, creating the field environment that would not need as much rest, or they're responsible for maintaining it, and then playing on that field during the day, doing their training camp, and then at the end they turn that field over and our children get to play on NFL quality fields. Yeah. That's the proposal, at least. Now there are issues that people have brought up with traffic and parking and where are these players going to stay and things of that nature. So it's not a situation without issues, but it also has some obvious benefits. For
you know what? It's hard to argue against the Chargers coming to town, because I will tell you, I went to the same luncheon you guys went to over at the Center Club for the Chargers, met the ownership and all of that. Their commitment to the community, even over a couple of months, has been outstanding. They've been hit up by virtually every time I run into somebody with a nonprofit, hey, can you connect me with the Chargers? Because I'm doing work over at the chamber and things like that. Can you connect me with the Chargers? And finally we've just sort of backed out. Tell us what you want. We're not going to introduce anybody else to the Chargers at this point because they're just being inundated. But I know the Chargers stepped up, and the Costa Mesa United Golf Tournament is a week from tomorrow. We scheduled a couple of times,
Right.
But they made a nice donation there. And they've made donations to other groups in town, but they've also made some major commitments to the city on improving some stuff.
Well, for example, as a result of this proposed training camp schedule, the AYSO is going to be displaced to a certain point in 2017.
Are they upset about that?
No.
Okay.
They've Chargers have talked to them and they're okay with it. The Chargers gave a one-time gift of $10,000 to AYSO number 120, and then in our very last, and I'm kind of very happy about this. In our very last city council meeting, we approved funding for a mobile recreation unit, and that was something that we had before. Would serve children throughout the city, but primarily on the west side, provide tutoring, books, recreational opportunities, and have people come to them. We approved that for roughly $50,000 to buy the unit.
Okay.
The Chargers are picking that up.
As part of this?
As part of, and my hope is, and this was something that Sandy Guinness brought to our very first council meeting, substantive council meeting,
right.
after we were sworn in. So January 3rd, we voted to go forward with it, and then we voted to fund it at the last meeting, and the Chargers are paying for that. And what I'm hoping is that the Chargers will actually come out and interact with the children,
right.
And that can be kind of a Charger project,
yeah.
which would be great.
There's been a lot of talk, people are concerned about the traffic around Jack Hammett and everything, but the bottom line is some of these NFL teams, when they go out there for those summer camps and things like that, they get thousands of people to show up, and I think, for these young kids in Costa Mesa, whether you're a football player or just an athlete or just an interested spectator, it's going to be great to have them in town. Tom, I've heard about a lot of potential involvement with the Chargers, maybe working with different organizations and kids. Are you familiar with any of that?
No, they have a extensive program that they had in San Diego that they look forward to sharing with the community. In fact, at John's city council meeting on Tuesday night, him and his colleagues are going to hear from the owner of the Chargers, as well as potentially the head coach is coming, and also their community outreach specialist, who's going to rattle off a long list of things that they're going to do for not only Costa Mesa but Orange County and the larger region as well. But they're, like you say, Tom, they're going to be heavily involved. I was impressed of their commitment locally, and frankly, they're not branding themselves as part of Orange County. They're branding themselves as part of Costa Mesa.
Right.
And they came up with the term, we want to be part of the fabric of Costa Mesa. And so, it's fair to say we'll see, because they haven't done it yet, but they've every day so far, they've proven to me, and I think they will to the larger city council on Tuesday night and the larger community, that they're here as a good partner.
Now, do you expect on Tuesday night, it to be a controversial issue? Do you expect people to come there against the Chargers?
No, I mean, what I do expect is that there will be people in the Mesa Del Mar neighborhood that are immediately affected. Of course, everyone within 500 feet has gotten a notice. I haven't received any emails, but I expect I will receive some emails. And
where would you like those directed, John?
To Katrina.Foley at CostaMesaCA.com. Everything goes there.
Good.
No, but actually, Katrina is conflicted out, so it's only going to be 4 of us that are going to be.
And why is she conflicted out?
Because her home is basically shares a fence with the farm complex.
Oh, got it.
So she has to sit it out, and one of my ideas was I think it's very important that the neighbors have a point of contact, kind of a hotline, where they can get together with anybody with the Chargers whenever there's an issue, and then the Chargers are also right now dealing with parking and looking at some satellite parking and transport to alleviate those issues. So I think those issues will come up, and we'll have to deal with them. But I don't expect a tremendous amount of opposition. But who knows? It's Costa Mesa. There's always opposition, and there's always interesting things that happen at our city council meeting. That's what makes this community so great.
Tom, I'm sure one of the big things that you've worked through, or at least considered, is the economic impact of a group like this coming to town, just on the way they can support events. I mean, these players are going to have to come to town. They're going to have to stay somewhere. That could be good revenue for hotels and everything like that. Has the city done anything on economic impact of this, or is it do we need to get through it before we can go back and look at that?
Yeah, we haven't done any particular studies, but I'm sure we could measure where we were and 6 months or a year from now, how that's changed, and so that will be the help. But clearly, just thousands of people coming to town, going to restaurants, staying in local hotels. In fact, the team themselves is planning to stay at a local hotel, all of them, during their 3 to 5 week training camp. So all of their players, all the coaches, all their administrative personnel, and so hundreds and hundreds of rooms every night for 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. So it makes a big difference. And so we're not even sure how all those ripple effects and how they'll affect everybody. It clearly will be one of those things like South Coast Plaza and the great shopping, the great restaurants, and all the different things that define Costa Mesa. The Chargers are going to be up there as well when we start telling, hey, when John goes to some conference and some colleagues, fellow council members throughout the state are saying, hey, where are you from? Oh, Costa Mesa. Oh, you have the Chargers. It's going to be one of those things that really defines us moving forward.
Now, there's been some speculation that the Chargers would come into town, kind of set stuff up and everything like that. Takes a little while to get the stadium built, maybe eventually move on. But this is an effort on Costa Mesa's part to try to make this a long-term settling place for the Chargers.
Well, it's a 10-year commitment. They've signed a 10-year commitment to their headquarters, and the proposed agreement regarding the training camp is a 10-year commitment. And so I don't think it's a short-term thing at all. I mean, 10 years is pretty long term.
Yeah. Tom, take me through the setup over there. I think it's just off Susan, of where the Chargers are going to be. What building or buildings are they going to use, and then how are they going to construct the fields in there?
Correct. So I think most people are obviously familiar with where IKEA is, and so IKEA, across north of IKEA, is the old LA Times building, large building, and just to the east of that building is a building we've just been calling forever the Emulex building, because Emulex operated out of that facility. And there's a 3-building complex there. What the largest of those buildings is a 2-story, 100,000 square foot building that will become the headquarters and home of the Chargers. Just to the south of that building, closer towards IKEA, is this empty field that had no development on it, I guess, in the history of Costa Mesa. Maybe there was something years ago, but there were just kind of trees and bushes and things in there, kind of just not an organized state of that field. And so they're looking to renovate that field, utilize that 100,000 square foot building as their home. It was pretty exciting, frankly, to see how when they had the layout of where the coach's office would be, where would the quarterback's film room would be, where would be the lineman's film room, where's their locker room, where's their cafeteria and their kind of a training facility for all those things. That was pretty exciting to see that laid out, and they're well underway with that process to renovate that building. And like John said, it didn't have to go to city council. This is a big business and a high-profile business, but basically they're coming into an existing building and they're renovating it. We do these all the time, and that's what they're doing. And so they're doing that well, and it's moving forward quickly.
The other thing too is they hired a Costa Mesa law firm, and Rutan and Tucker.
Sure, that's right.
So Jennifer Farrell's working
on chairman of the board of Costa Mesa Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah. We were talking the other day, and I said, we should package like a MCLE program about how to move and settle an NFL team. You know, it's a very very interesting matter that you get one time in your career, basically.
Got to tell you a funny quick story. Is a couple years ago, I was minding my own business. A friend called me up and he said, the Raiders are looking at coming to Orange County. They'd like to meet some people down there. Could you introduce them to some people? So I set up with Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders. He flew down, and I took him around to introduce him to people in town. Peter Ubroth was one, and there were several others. I just wanted to meet some people in town, some supervisors and stuff like that. And I remember walking out of the building with Mark Davis, owner of the Raiders, at one point. After we walked out of Ubroth's office, he turned to me and he goes, "I'm so glad I have you along because I don't know how to move an NFL team." And I'm thinking, you think I do? I haven't done anything like this. Somebody just called me. But it's exciting times in Costa Mesa. And, you know, it's not only exciting in the fact of just the Chargers moving here. You know, last week I was on the phone with Vans, another big operation coming to Costa Mesa. Tom, you got to be feeling good about your city these days.
No, absolutely, and the council's excited. There is a good spirit about what's happening. The pride that we had in Costa Mesa is we've earned it. We've struggled from years ago having a lack of identity ourselves, and we've really kind of settled in on being the cool, eclectic, funky, interesting town that we are with great restaurants. And so we have a good source of pride, and people want to be here.
Right.
They want to be part of a community.
Right. So I was talking to some people. I think one of the great things too about Costa Mesa is, as you enter our city, you guys have put some great signs up. Welcome to Costa Mesa and everything.
Yeah.
I imagine a little bar across the bottom of that slab of wood or something that says training home of the Los Angeles Chargers.
There you go.
So some food for thought or whatever. But anything else we should be prepared for Tuesday night?
No, I mean, I think, it's always fun and entertaining to have to go to a city council meeting. I think it'll be interesting for the Chargers to experience that because sometimes, it's more of a contact sport in the city council chambers than it is on the football field.
Yeah, you're right.
So, but I don't think that'll be the case. We've got always got some fun stuff on the agenda, and we have a good time. And the council, I think, are really enjoying each other. I mean,
cool.
and we're moving in the right direction. And as Tom said, there's so many great things happening in Costa Mesa. I could go on and on into your next segment. So
John, when you're sitting up there on the dais and you look out in the audience, there's some council meetings that have 30, 40 people there. There's other council meetings that fill the chambers.
Right.
I don't know if this will fill the chambers or not, but does your decision-making process get different in those kind of arenas?
No, because, people are also watching online and stuff like that. I mean, but last meeting we hardly had any people. I felt like I was on the planning commission. There was nobody out there. Yeah. And then if there's something that a lot of people want to talk about, then they tend to show up. But, yeah, I mean, I just think it's great that people come out and participate, and that's kind of how I got started. Cool. And I think it's just wonderful that we have that type of environment.
Well, I've followed NFL football for years and years and years. I'm a fantasy football player. I love it. I'm so happy the Chargers are coming to town. I'm not first and foremost a Charger fan. I'm not going to say who I'm a fan of, but the fact of the matter is with the Chargers coming to town, being affiliated with the Chamber of Commerce, working closely with you guys to make Costa Mesa a better place, I'm truly excited for them to come to town.
I'm so glad you didn't say make Costa Mesa great again.
No. But I was thinking about that. Anyway, Tom Hatch, city manager, thanks for coming in and talking about
Absolutely.
it. John Stevens, city council, you're always out there in front of things with us. We really appreciate that. We're going to come back. We're going to hope that Barbara calls in, and we'll talk some politics around town and see what Barbara has to say.
All right, good.
More on Stu News in just a few moments.
Thanks.